How are you doing?
Hi, good to be here, thanks.
What's your name?
I'm at Iridian.
Okay, and where are you from? What brings you to the staking summit?
So I'm working with the ethStaker community, so solo staking on Ethereum and trying to get more people involved with that.
Okay, and when did you get involved in solo staking? What's your journey into Ethereum staking?
Yeah, so well, for the past 18 months I've been really interested in the space and realised that the merge was coming with Ethereum and wanted to get involved, so I actually helped some of the test nets before the merge.
Nice.
And did staking through that, and then started staking on mainnet just before the merge. And then since then I've got involved with the staking community to write lots of the documentation for the ethStaker knowledge base to actually get more people involved.
Nice, okay. And tell us a bit more about ethStaker and what specifically you do.
Yeah, so ethStaker's great because it's not a company or a for-profit, it's just a community-driven enterprise where we're just trying to educate. So the tagline is welcoming first, knowledgeable second. So it's trying to get people involved and break down some of the barriers so it's not as scary for people to solo stake. And it is really intimidating when you start. So having a very strong Discord and Reddit forum where people can talk and ask those basic questions is really important. So,
oh, that's awesome. It's a great initiative.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And so what's your opinion on staking pools and, sort of the commercialization of Ethereum staking versus solo stakers, and like how do you bridge the gap between the two?
Yeah, well, I mean, now is the time when it's all changing. So particularly before withdrawals are enabled, everything's a bit more polarized because you can't easily change and you can't unlock stake, particularly on Ethereum. I think you shouldn't also try and fight the current. You can't just tell people to change direction if there's economic incentives and things like that.
Yes.
Particularly, it's the phrase that we've been using is irrational actors, right? So people that don't necessarily act completely rationally. If you're solo home staking, it's not for the best APR, it's not because it's the easiest thing to do. It's because you truly care about the health of the network and you want...
care about decentralization.
Yeah, and it's also, you can be selfish and selfless at the same time. So the selfishness is like, I want my ETH to be worth something in 20 years' time, and the only way I can make sure that happens is if I solo home stake. So yeah, but I also understand that it is a big undertaking, it is very difficult. Things like liquid staking allow people to do more and leverage their capital, which is really important for capital efficiency. So it's not about making it, not about being a maxi and saying, no, it's just solo staking or that's it. And there are middle steps like things like Rocket Pool, which allow for shared staking and pooled staking where you have 16 ETH of your own stake and then you share it with other people, and that helps to contribute to the health of the network while also splitting the rewards. So I don't think it's a negative space, like a negative thing at the moment, that there's all these different options. I think it's amazing that there's the growth potential, and I guess the tagline to say is that no one's fighting each other, like Lido and Coinbase and everyone. They're not actually fighting each other at the moment. The thing that we should all be working towards is the unstaked ETH, right? If only 10 to 12% of the network is currently staked, it's the massive pool of unstaked ETH, which is the market.
What do you think people are doing? Are they a bit wary, waiting for the Shanghai upgrade, or what's your opinion on that?
So before the merge, I assumed everyone was waiting for the merge, which was slightly naive because I was blinkered with the idea like, hey, you just stake. And everyone's like, so when's withdrawals? I was like, what? Why would you withdraw? Which was I was a bit blinded just by what I was doing. But it makes a lot of sense because if you tell people, yeah, you can put your money in, they're like, oh, how do I get it out? And you say you can't, then that's a huge blocker. So yeah, I actually am now much more of the mindset of Shanghai, and that update with withdrawals will allow more people to stake comfortably.
Okay, and I'm interested in your opinion on can solo stakers take part in MEV? Like, can they benefit from that, or is that only for the Lidos, the Rocket Pools? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, if you look at MEV Boost and what that's enabled, running it as a sidecar to your execution client, it has helped a lot. So MEV itself.
So have you seen a difference in your API?
Oh yeah,
do you run it?
So the key thing about this is, like, as a solo staker, you can run MEV Boost and you can get small increments in general. You can get quite a lot more, but then you're still unlikely to win the lottery because you have to propose a block, which is rare, 2 to 3 months per block on average, and then in that block you also have to hit the second lottery ticket of getting the 300 ETH MEV block, right? So what I'm quite interested in at the moment is the idea of smoothing pool. So Rocket Pool does this, Lido is a giant smoothing pool essentially, and that is the thing that solo stakers are missing out on with MEV, is the smoothing element. And this has been discussed about being built into the protocol itself and having smoothing pools or smoothing in general as part of the base layer protocol. And I think that would really help encourage solo stakers as well. So the fact that I have the choice to choose to use MEV and which relay and that side of it is brilliant from a solo staking perspective. But yes, the statistics don't help the individual, and in this case, just knowing that the average APR is a lot higher doesn't help the individual if I'm only proposing a few blocks a year, and I don't win that lottery, I am missing out.
Yeah. And so what are your thoughts, like, what would you like to see in the Ethereum solo staking community? Would you, like, if the Ethereum Foundation came to you and said, hey, like, we want to act upon one idea that you have to make it more welcoming and easier for people to enter, what would it be?
Well, I guess the simplest without changing too much would be the smoothing, as we just talked about. The idea of saying, like, it's more fair, right? So you don't just have to cross your fingers and win the lottery, because that is a huge disincentive.
Yes.
Okay, there's other stuff around making actually the staking side easier, to do with like DVT and having the ability to not completely be reliant on your own node and have a group of nodes
to have key shares
and things like that. So that would be a huge help at the protocol level. That still requires some trust assumptions, so that's why I think anything where you can say, yes, I'm a solo home staker, but I benefit from this smoothing, for example, and then PBS as well. Anything that can help ensure the security and the long-term sustainability of the Ethereum network is of benefit to solo home stakers. And I think they've already done a lot with particularly client diversity as well. Makes me feel a lot more confident that if there is a problem with Geth or with the different clients I'm using, Lighthouse, I can switch, and it is it's still quite technical to do that, but the resources are there and being written. So
and getting better every day.
Yes, exactly. So
cool. And if there's one thing you'd have to say to our community, like, let's say someone's watching this, wow, I'd love to get involved in solo staking, where do you start?
Okay, so key thing is, to run a full node on Ethereum, you do not need any ETH. So that is the first thing I would say, is that if you want to run a full node, you can follow all the tutorials for validating, for solo staking, and just don't actually deposit the 32 ETH. And if you run through all those tutorials, you will be running a full node. And if you do another set of steps, you can actually run your own RPC endpoint, where instead of when you go to MetaMask and you send a transaction, instead of going through Infura by default, you can actually send it through your own node and see your transaction going through Geth, submitted to the network.
Wow, that's awesome.
And that's amazing. So that would be the starting point, and from there learn more about solo staking and what it means to contribute to the network in that way. But running a full node is the best thing you can do. Cool.
And lastly, your Twitter handle, Discord, how can they get involved?
Yeah, so my Twitter and everything is Iridian Alpha. So Iridian Alpha, and I'm iridian.eth.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Cheers.
Great. Cheers.
Thank you.